And thank you, Liz and WKRC, for that story. This week, Florida shattered the U.S. single-day record for new coronavirus cases. Here to discuss is pandemic expert Dr. Dena Grayson. And usually, I think you're in Florida right now, Dr. Grayson, if I'm not mistaken. A couple of big numbers this week out of Florida. Again, I'm going to bring this up to you again. Coronavirus cases go up, but the death continues. The number of deaths continue to go down.
Well, Eric, as we've talked about, deaths are a lagging indicator. In fact, we are seeing the overall death rate in this country start to tick upwards. So what we were seeing before in the death rate was really dominated by the numbers coming out of New York and New Jersey. It takes time for people to get really sick, go in the ICU, and then succumb to the virus. And just as, I predicted on the show a few weeks ago, as you recall, I said, look, what's going to come next, Eric, is we're going to see those hospitalizations start to go up. The ICUs are going to start getting filled, and then we'll start seeing that death rate go up. And that's exactly, unfortunately, what we're seeing.
Well, we're not. Doc, and you're the expert.
Yeah, we are.
But I'm a numbers expert.
Are.
We're not seeing the death rate go up. We're seeing the death rate go down. Number of deaths may be ticking up, but as we know, the actual positives are exploding, and the deaths are only ticking up a little. That means that the death rate, mortality of this virus, is actually shrinking.
Well, it's not, Eric. We don't know that because, first of all, it's death is a lagging indicator. So the cases that are diagnosed today, on average, it takes weeks for someone to die from the virus if they're going to die. Now, there's some good news, bad news here. I agree with you that initially, the first wave in this next wave of the outbreak, if you will, or next peak of the outbreak, was in younger people. But unfortunately, in a very ominous sign and very predictable, we're now seeing infections in older people. So and those are folks that to get sicker, hospitalized, ICU, and have a higher chance of dying. So now the good news here is that yes, doctors are better at treating folks with this virus, but it is way too early to say, hey, that mortality rate has ticked down. It is way, way, way too early, Eric.
Just by the numbers, Doc. I'm not opinionizing, not throwing any opinion spin on this at all. Mm-hmm. It literally is, with the cases going up, positivity going down, and the number of deaths flat to up a little. That is a tick down in mortality rate of this virus. I mean, it's just pure numbers. Doc, let's talk.
It's too early though. Let's talk in a month.
Well, okay, fair enough. We will, and we will. Let's talk about this vaccine, the potential vaccine. Moderna came out, and the stock market jumped, and everything was great. How confident are we so far on this potential vaccine?
Well, Eric, the data are very promising with the Moderna vaccine. And there's another vaccine as well from the University of Oxford, very similar kind of technology using RNA, essentially mimicking kind of the virus to use your body's own cells to then make the protein that you then immunizes you. So based upon the early data, very encouraging. All the data are very encouraging. I think that there's a good chance for success, but this is an unproven technology, an unproven approach for vaccines. So the proof is going to be in this big phase 3 trial that will be starting within the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, and we need to point out this phase 2 trial was younger people, and there's fewer younger people. Phase 3 is going to be, I think, 30,000 higher risk people. So that should be I guess, an indicator whether this vaccine is going to work. I have friends who are literally out there saying, I have the antibody, which means I had COVID-19. I have the antibody, and they're like, yay, I can go do whatever I want. Bad idea?
Well, it's a dangerous idea because we don't know how long immunity to this virus lasts. First of all, it's never been proven that if you test positive for the antibody that you're immune to the virus. Now, most of us, myself included, think it's likely. However, it's not clear how long those antibodies last. And what we have seen is that patients sometimes that have recovered from this virus, that after 3 months, 4 months, the antibodies wane and they're gone. So, you may have antibodies today, but next week you may not. So I think that everyone needs to be pretty cautious and act as though, hey, this is not an immunity ticket or anything like that.
Yeah, immunity ticket. I get the pun right there. Doc, we're going to let it go. We'll leave it right there. Ran out of time. But again, this is an odd virus. It changes by the day, by the minute sometimes. A lot of times an antibody for a virus can last the whole lifetime. And as you point out, this one may not be the case. Dr. Dena, appreciate your time as always.
Thanks for having me, Eric.